got some breaking news here. The Las Vegas Raiders have fired General Manager Tom Telesco. I'm Mitchell Renz. This is the Raiders Report. And if you're ever looking for Raiders breaking news, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because we got over 5,000 people right now. If I told you you could go to a Raiders party with 5,000 people right now, guess what? You'd want to be there. That's the closest thing to an Oakland tailgate since partying in Oakland. And you know what? I miss partying in Oakland. So how about this, though? Give me that one-word reaction to the Raiders firing General Manager Tom Telesco. It was expected that the Raiders were going to move on from Antonio Pierce. Every single Raiders beat reporter, not Raiders beat reporter, but yeah, Raiders beat writers, NFL insiders. I mean, even me, I was told that the Raiders are going to keep Tom Telesco. My one-word reaction is wow. I mean, when I saw it pop up, when the Chat Sports team texted me and goes, they just fired Tom Telesco, I literally was like, I couldn't believe it. I thought somebody was pulling my leg. I thought somebody put something fake on social media because it was totally out of left field, which makes me wonder, what is about to go down? It's got to be something pretty crazy, man. So the Raiders, they hired Telesco last year. Telesco also was the general manager of the Los Angeles Chargers from 2013 to 2023. So the fact that they moved on from Telesco and the fact that they moved on from Antonio Pierce tells me this. Whatever their new head coach is going to be, whatever their new GM is going to be, they are going to align, and they are going to align with what Tom Brady is trying to build here. When you go back and you look at last offseason, there was a lot of rumors circulating around Brady wanting to bring in Mike Vrabel, which, you know, still could potentially happen this season. I think what Tom Brady said is, all right, if you're not going to let me call the shots, if you're not going to let me hire the guys I want, because Brady didn't want Telesco and Brady did not want Antonio Pierce. So they rolled with AP, they rolled with Telesco, and you saw what that product was this season. So Brady's probably going like, well, now I want to be able to bring in my guys. But what's really intriguing to me around this whole situation is the timing of everything. And I'll kind of get into why I think it's interesting with Ben Johnson, why I think it's interesting with Mike Vrabel, but the fact that this team decided to move on from Telesco, a GM that, let's face it, found Brock Bowers, found Jackson Powers-Johnson, did a good job in the draft, but I don't think he did a good job in free agency. His first move, or one of his first moves, was trying to bring back Andre James, who was a disaster. James Craig, offensive line coach, disaster. Luke Getsy gets put a lot of blame on AP, and AP deserves the blame for that. But also, your GM gets blamed for that as well. Then when you consider the fact of free agency, Telesco was the one that brought in Gardner Minshew. Telesco was a part of that regime that wanted to start Minshew over Aiden O'Connell. Antonio Pierce said that he felt bad that he didn't go with his gut because he wanted to be able to start Aiden and listen to other people. One of the other people that was in that conversation was Telesco, and if you're the Raiders, the number one thing that you got to get right this offseason is finding the quarterback. Now, I'll tell you this, based on a lot of the people that I talked to, I really thought that they were going to keep Telesco because of his past experience with a quarterback. This tells me whatever head coach that they're talking to right now, that head coach has got to have a GM in mind, because for everything that snap of a finger and change as quick as it did, there has to be something crazy going on in the background. So earlier this year, I did a video and it was why AP and Telesco could be done. And I talked about all of these things because when you think about the Raiders, right? 2025 quarterback means I literally did a show around if the Raiders need a QB in 2025, watch out for them to fire and clean house on everything. The Raiders, they did get worse this past offseason, and that's kind of hard to believe considering the fact that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler were the helm of it. One of the other reasons, though, like the poor coaching decisions, hiring Luke Getsy, putting Gardner Minshew out there, and I am to blame for that as well. I thought Minshew would be better than Aiden. I'll still say this. I'd be curious to see what Gardner Minshew at the beginning of the season would look like with Scott Turner compared to, if Aiden would have had to go out there with Luke Getsy in the beginning of the season. I still think that is a fair conversation to have. But, teams either quit or it's just horrific way too often for the Raiders. They have no identity right now, and they didn't have an identity last season. I think when you bring in Tom Brady, and then you can find a GM, you can find a head coach, and you can all get on the same page, you need to be able to find an identity. That's what good teams, that's what good businesses, that's what good organizations do. Because when you have John Gruden and Mike Mayock guys, and you pair them with, dudes that like Rich Bisaccia, but then you have another guy that likes Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels, and then you have another team that's brought in with AP and another guy with Telesco, and you have all these different players, all this different coaching staff, all these different ideas, all these different ideologies, all these different ideas on how to win football games. A lot of shit changes. But one of the things that Mike Vrabel did say the other day was, I want somebody that has the same exact mindset of how to win football games, X's and O's style. Just saying. It's going to be an interesting next few days. Diana Rossini said this. From what I was told, Telesco was fired mostly because ownership seems to prefer having the general manager and head coach more connected, like a cohesive partnership. Rather than something that feels more arranged or forced, Brady has a lot of influence in Las Vegas. I'll be real, I did not see that tweet come out. Shout out to Chip for finding that one for me. Shout out to the Chat Sports team for finding that one for me. So here's my opportunity to ask all of y'all a question. What is your confidence level in the Raiders to make the right decision at general manager? I want you to scale it from 1 to 10. 1, you're not confident at all. 10, it's going to be a slam dunk, what we are trying to do. The reason why I am going to sit up here and I'm going to give it a solid 8 is because Tom Brady, to me, is making shit happen. Tom Brady is doing things that I do. I agree with everything that he's doing. I was surprised that they moved on from Telesco. I kind of, could wrap my mind around them moving, keeping Telesco. But if Brady's able to pull off getting Ben Johnson in here, look out how good the Raiders are going to be. Now, before I keep on rocking here and getting through a lot of these questions, or not questions, a lot of the news that's around Tom Telesco, I got to be able to give a huge shout out to our sponsor here, Game Time. And Game Time is the number one place where everybody that's watching this show right now should try to get their tickets for any event. Game Time is focused on bringing people together in 2025 and creating lasting memories. I always say that you might not remember the score, but you're always going to have those memories, and that's why I love going to any type of event. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. If you're wondering what time is it, guess what? It's game time. Whether you want to go to a hockey game, whether you want to go to an event in Vegas, I think if you are somebody that wants to go to Las Vegas, the perfect app for you is Game Time. I mean, let's face it. Every time I go to Vegas, I experience a whole new level of exhaustion, right? I mean, we're doing everything and anything because that's what Vegas is all about. But I have found myself at times, I'll make plans to go to something, and then I'm like tied up or traffic's bad or I'm doing something else in Vegas. The Uber can't find me. There's a lot of shit going on. But when I'm in Vegas and I go on Game Time and I'm walking by a place and I'm like, oh, that show starts in an hour. Let me just see if there's any tickets. I've gone to some of the best shows I've ever gone to in Vegas at a really good price, cheap price, because of the Game Time app, because the way that they think of it is this. They want to get your butt in that seat because they know you're going to buy food. They know you're going to buy a drink. So instead of them not selling that ticket and getting $0, they'll sell it to you at a cheap price because if you sit there, you're going to spend while you're there. And even if you don't spend while you're there, if I make $1, it's better than making $0. Shout out to Game Time for sponsoring the Raiders Report. Seriously, if you plan on going to an event, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports. That's ChatSports. Let's keep it rolling here around the breaking news of the Silver and Black. Moving on from Tom Telesco. The Raiders did release this statement on Twitter. The Las Vegas Raiders have relieved Tom Telesco of their duties as general manager. We appreciate his efforts in helping build a foundation for the future. We wish Tom and his family all the best. And I do too. I wish him all the best. And now what the Raiders got to do is we got to focus on who we're going to bring in as a head coach, who we're going to be able to bring in as a general manager. And one of the guys who I talk to on a weekly basis, Jordan DM'd me right when the Raiders fired Telesco. And one of the names that I am hearing is Ed Dodds, okay? Ed Dodds is a name to keep in mind for the next Raiders general manager spot. And that's just based on a connection with connection with Mark Davis. And Dodds has a lot of love for the Raiders, and he's wanted to be a GM for the Raiders now for multiple seasons. But Jordan Schultz did put this out there. By firing Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce, the Raiders can now sell the top coaching candidates that they will be getting a clean reset at both levels of the organization. That's something most of the other openings can't offer. And that is a very important statement there by Jordan Schultz, where when the Raiders fired Antonio Pierce, I'll be real, I wasn't all that surprised because it was everything that we were hearing happening. When you hear nothing along the lines of that you're going to fire Tom Telesco, and it was reported by Schefter, Rappaport that the Raiders were going to keep him, and then 2 days happen, and now a big-time firing happens. That makes me wonder if one of these top candidates, maybe like Ben Johnson or something. If Ben Johnson was like, hey, I want my own GM, the Raiders are making moves right now to be able to figure that out. If the Raiders know that Mike Vrabel is really heavily competing with somebody like the Patriots, this could be another way to go, hey, well, we're going to let you pick your own general manager, and you're going to be able to be the head coach. The Raiders clearly have their eyes set on multiple candidates. I will say this, though. Vrabel does not have an interview scheduled. He doesn't need to have an interview scheduled because he's not employed by a team because his contract ran out by the Cleveland Browns. I'm just telling you this, for something that happened around Tom Telesco getting fired, the Raiders are about to hit us with a bombshell. I just hope that the bombshell is a good one. That's all I got to say. So let's go to some questions, some instant reactions here from Raider Nation. I see Ava says Telesco doesn't want to trade up. Ben Johnson wants his quarterback. He told them, get rid of Telesco, trade up if you want me. Ben Johnson time. You know what? I actually hope you're right. I hope that you're right, and I hope that the Raiders can figure out a way to be aggressive and go get their quarterback. I mean, it shouldn't be a secret. Tom Brady wants Shedeur Sanders. And this is part of the reason why I was like all those wins that we won, all of them, too, Jacksonville and New Orleans at the end of the year, I think for that crowd should be a little bit nervous because I think Shedeur should go in round one. I think Cam Ward should go in round one. Do I think that we should give up multiple first-round picks and a player for him? No, I think that that's a little bit too high. But I'll tell you this. Would I trade up for Shedeur Sanders if it meant I could get Ben Johnson? Yeah, I would. Because Shedeur Sanders, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but Shedeur Sanders reminds me a lot closer to a guy like a Jared Goff, somebody who can play a little bit of play action, somebody who is an accurate quarterback, somebody who's not going to wow you with their athletic ability, but can execute an offense. Just saying. Keep an eye on it. If the Raiders hire Ben Johnson, I'm not kidding you. I don't know how long I'm going to go live for, but I will go live for so long that my knees might give out. My palms might get sweaty. My knees weak, arms are heavy. Bobbing on a sweater already. Mom spaghetti. That's how wild I'm going to go if they hire Ben Johnson. What up, Raider Prime? Who gets hired first, GM or head coach? I don't know. I never do this show, and I never try to act like I know something because I am just as surprised as all of you. I have no idea who they're even thinking about GM. I only knew a lot of the stuff going on around the head coaches because my corner was telling me head coach was this, GM was safe. I usually say that good organizations hire a GM first, and then you hire a head coach. But if you're trying to bring in that whale, that's a Ben Johnson. Or again, the Raiders do really want Mike Vrabel, and Vrabel is kind of, I would say, the front runner for that New England job. If they're trying to reel him in a little bit, you might have to dangle a little bit more bait, and you might have to give him the bait of being a head coach and go pick his own GM. What up, Raider Gaines? Telesco failing to get Daniels last draft tells me Mark wants somebody who can get a deal done. Sanders likely means Prime will come too. I don't agree with that. Though, that would be a bombshell. And Deion Sanders did say just the other day, the only way he's going to the NFL is if he can coach his sons. Shedeur, Shiloh, Deion. I mean, Mark loves money, and there's no doubt about it. It would be the most Mark Davis-like move you could possibly arrange together, the most Jerry Jones-like move you could even throw together. And if the Raiders hired Deion, I would be sick to my stomach. I think Deion is going to be one of the best coaches in college football because of his ability to be able to communicate with young adults because he can tell them, hey, I can get you into the league. And Deion can do that. He's doing a great job raising young men. You can say whatever you want about Deion. Deion is one of the best damn things that has ever happened to college football. But with that being said, I don't think Deion's philosophy is going to also be able to get it done in the NFL. We'll see what ends up happening, man. That's all I know is I can't wait now. It's going to be the craziest offseason of all time. So what I want to know down below is give me a name of who you want the Raiders to hire to be their next general manager. The number one name for me that comes to my mind is Ed Dodds. And not just because I know he has connections. I will do homework. I will do my research. Tomorrow, you will get a video from me on the Raiders Report, the top general manager candidates for the Las Vegas Raiders next season.